I spent in anti-money laundering space, working with the financial sector in this space, over 14 years. And I have to say, for me, anti-money laundering is actually sexy. And it's actually, it's really different when you understand the flow of funds around the globe, how it is constructed. You really learn a lot about human behavior, human nature, governments, how it is structured as well, yes? And you discover a lot of different jurisdictions, such as Vanuatu, Panama, Gibraltar, which you didn't hear before or you were not interested. Yeah? So I know that you have this in mind as well all the time when you are doing business. And I'm gonna bring you some of this flavor of my understanding of what's happening in the world right now in this slide. Before moving on, how many of you has actually cryptocurrency business in this? Okay, quite a few. And how many of you are accepting Dash? Okay, so I have to tell you one thing. You are probably in breach of anti-money laundering rules. So this is something which we're going to discuss. Right, this is something, we want our business to look like this, yes? I'm also in this business, I'm also accepting payments, our business should be like this, yes? So we are laying on the beach, we have a lot of money, all the business is growing nicely, and we are not concerned with the risks. So we had a guy, Alexander Vinick, who was probably on his holidays in Greece. Probably laying on the beach, thinking, how the business is growing. BTC is growing perfectly. Yes, it's really nice business. It's happening. I'm enjoying my life. And he wasn't thinking at this time that effectively, when he was, there was a number of companies and number of government officials working on his case, like FinCEN, IRS, US Homeland Security, and a number of different government bodies. And suddenly, his vision, this is my imagination, his vision went a little bit darker. Yeah? So it's not solar eclipse probably for him. It probably was the guys from Greek police and FBI, stopping him there. And this is unfortunately how this guy works. This is what is happening, as we speak. And I can assure you that after what happened with Vinick, we had a lot of business coming to us. Why? Let me just, we have a, okay, that's a trick, no. Okay, so we have some technical problem. But effectively, what I wanted to show you is there's a global remit of the regulators. Yes, and the impact of these regulators is quite severe. And when you are doing business in cryptocurrency, you're immediately doing business internationally. Yes, you have different jurisdictions coming to your play. You have different clients from different jurisdictions, and you need to consider different regulations which are impacting your business. And it's not easy picture. It's not easy business to do. In principle, currently, when you compare this with current financial system, we have something between 2 to 36 trillion US dollars laundered annually. Of course, this is controversial, yes? I mean, what is money laundering? What is crime? Yeah? When these things are treated as, criminal activity or not. But, for example, Vinick was charged with 21 cases of money laundering. And he will probably going to be spending a lot of years in the prison. And this is something which is, which is also impacting cryptocurrency business. Why cryptocurrency business? Because a lot of these funds at some point will be transferred to cryptocurrency space. Yes? And at this point, basically, you are suddenly in the sphere of, okay, what is happening basically with my business, how I can manage the risk associated with money laundering. Okay, every time, and I'm gonna stay with this picture until these things are loaded. I don't know, Prezi does not work here. I don't know what's happening, so we have some technical problem. But value exchange, so you can imagine in these corners basically being US dollar dash Bitcoin, right? And whenever you have exchange of value, being cryptocurrency, being different blockchain asset, being US dollar, you need to consider anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing rules. That's a standard. If you think that, if you are considering, oh, does it apply to me or not, maybe it does not apply to you right now. But the problem is, you need to do this historically once they kick off. But in most of the jurisdictions, even though it's not certain in terms of applications, you're going to have this, anytime soon. Yeah, whenever you have the, the next slide, this is what I remember. The next slide is basically when we put the map of jurisdictions which are covered with the regulations or not. And currently you have Australia, US, which is, you are certain that AML is kicking off there. EU, European Union is basically something when you're going to have this pretty soon. China, Russia, this is all over confusing. Right? So basically, it's going to happen. It's going to happen pretty soon. And the interesting part is that you will not be able to hide from this. Yeah? Even if you are doing so, the case with BTCE was quite interesting in the way that it's in Russia. Yeah? So the guys were traveling not to US, so they're not stopped in the US. They were stopped in Greece. So Greece was cooperating with them to actually deliver the guy. So this is, that's why, the impact, even if you do this on the, in the jurisdiction which is not currently regulating this, you have international exposure immediately. So this is when you need to think about this kind of repercussions. And when you are thinking about, so let me do this without slides, so, I'm gonna be happy without slides as well. So when you are doing this cryptocurrency transactions, yes, you need to think about a few things in your setup. KYC. Who knows what KYC stands for? Know your customer. Very good. What does it mean for you? You need to understand who is your client. Yes. And this is what I see, from dealing with a number of businesses, cryptocurrency businesses, banks, financial institutions. This is what typically it's easy to do. Yes? This is something which you are, doing this pretty well. The other part which is, tricky, yes, it's the source of funds. Okay, we got it. Yeah, so we can skip this. This is the map which I told you, yes. So this is pretty picture of international environment. KYC, transaction monitoring, source of funds, written procedures, awareness training. So KYC, I see you guys are doing pretty well. That's fine. Yeah. Transaction monitoring, source of funds. This is something which is more tricky with cryptocurrency. Why? Because cryptocurrency, for the beauty of it, is effectively you exchanges transactions between peers. Yes. So when you have peer-to-peer transaction, peer-to-peer exchange of value, you have also peer-to-peer risk exposure. And you need to understand this particular risk. If you are cryptocurrency exchange, if you are e-commerce business, you're effectively doing this in the same way. So there's no middleman typically. There's no middleman who is handling this for you. You are exposed to this directly. And this is completely different. And this is effectively what we are doing. Yes? So we are covering this aspect of transaction monitoring for you. We tell you who is this guy, what is this guy profile, which is matching with your KYC analysis. Yes? We give you the information on the source of funds. So this is very important point. Written procedures, this is something which you need to have as well. So if you are considering anti-money laundering compliance, written procedures is a must. It's a starting point. Awareness training, this is something which you need to do as well. This is obligatory from the regulatory point of view. What can go wrong? Everything can go wrong. And I saw this in so many different institutions, financial institutions, which are spending millions and millions and millions and millions on this, right? So that's fine. This is happening. I saw bugs in the system. Some of them were, bugs. Some of them were real bugs. But these are, someone failed to submit some reports to the regulators. So these things are happening. Yeah? What you need to do, you must be prepared for these guys: inspection, regulators, FinCEN, because this guy is going to come to you. At some point, sooner or later, they're going to come to you and they're going to ask, how are you managing this risk? What are you doing in the space? How you are covering your different aspects of the, KYC, transaction monitoring, and etc. and etc. So you need to get ready for these guys, and getting ready not always means getting hidden, right? Or not doing anything or anonymizing everything. So we see a lot of change, coming from from the industry. When we started the business, it was 1 year and a half when we started Coinfirm properly. Yeah. When we started this, it was like conversation of, why are you doing this? That's crazy. We all about libertarians, anonymous, and etc. Right now, these guys who are the biggest opponents for us are coming to us and say, listen, help us. Help us with transaction monitoring. Help us with AML. Help us with convincing banks to open accounts for them. So which is happening as well, because we are in the process of onboarding a number of banks, financial institutions, to provide systems for you. Accounts, yes, for Dash transactions, for Bitcoin transactions, for Ethereum businesses. Yes? So or ICOs are coming to us, yes, saying, listen, we want to cash out at some point. Yes? How we can cash out? We need bank account, and nobody wants to provide us a bank account. Because these guys, banks, you need to understand, what's happening on their side. They have the same risk. They have the risk of you being their client. So they need to be able to manage this risk. Monitoring stupid. Very important part. As I said, you need to understand, you need to build a system, right? You need to analyze what are the source of funds, what is the flow of transactions. If someone is using mixers, what is the degree of use of these mixers is. And don't get me wrong, I know hypocrisy around money laundering. Yes? I know government aspect, why they are chasing us, not doing their own work. So it's all about, it's really the discussion which you need to have. But you need to agree at some point, if I do business which want to benefit for many, 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 many years in the nice and peace and quiet way, this is something which we need to build in. And monitoring for cryptocurrency, it's the most important part. I can actually, I think we are on the bridge of shifting something from KYC to monitoring. In banking sector, banking sector is basically thinking about what we have on our, accounts. This is what we see. We don't see what other bank is doing. In cryptocurrency transaction, we see almost everything, which is beautiful. And we protect privacy. There is, lack of anonymity. That's true. But this is something which, the paradigm of compliance is shifting to monitoring. And monitoring, this is what we do. Yeah. This is what we are providing. And we know that we are niche in this way, but we are, professional in this way. We are the only company which is providing this for Dash, for example. Yes. And we are proud to be part of this. How it works? So let me give you some flavor. I hope it's going to work. Let me give you some flavor of the system and some commentaries as well. So this is something which we build for, typically for, banks or financial institutions. We have so-called scenarios. So we have around 200 different scenarios which analyze the data in a number of looking for different aspects. So you see after the scenarios are applied, we have the results. Yes, the red indicators actually addresses and clients. If you click on the report, you basically have the history of this transaction, of this address. Yeah, so you can see. And these are the different triggers, basically, which provide us with different flavors and different aspects of this client, of this address. Then you can see, when you put the panel, basically, you have individual companies. You can see this transaction flow. You can see, basically, where the funds are being transferred, how it is being transferred. Yeah, so you have this kind of slightly investing. And this is something which is really cool. Yes? This is something which we, when we present this in Japan, the guys just love this because they're afraid of China, North Korea. For them, it's huge risk. So if we are able to put, or attach addresses of their clients even, to this particular geographical location, in this way we can show this on the map in the real life time. So this is something which is really simple, really. What we want to do, what we want to achieve for the market is to make your life easier, right? You need to have one person in your compliance team who is responsible for AML. We don't want you to grow, in the same way. Because, what you are being asked at the moment, it's tricky, but what you're being asked is, you are young industry, but you need to comply with the same standards as banks. Equal standards. So, and banks have enormous amount of money to put this. Yeah? It's actually, we want to create a competitive advantage for them. But we actually can, tackle this problem with our solution. Because this is something when we come and say, listen, you don't have better systems than we. This is something which we can handle for you. Personal freedom and innovation need to coexist with general rules of wider society. This is what we think about what's happening. This is how we are fitting into it. We don't want to make your life more difficult. We don't want to chase you. We don't want to, exclude money from the market. We just provide you with information. That's what we do. We provide you with the information. You manage your risk. But it needs to, you need to understand that you need to apply these rules because there's a lot of bad guys around the world, yes? Drug traffickers, human traffickers, weapon traders, child pornography. And you can argue that some of this, are not criminal activity per se, but some of them could harm society as well. So that's why, AML, it's not, empty statement. I think there's, really a lot of, meaningful applications of anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing in the world. And this is what we want to help you. And this is how we see ourselves fitting into this, this organization. Okay, my time is coming to the end. Questions, answers? That's a very good question. And, so we see private, depends on the amount. Depends how you structure the transactions, yes? And depends if it's like cash, basically, You need to, it's very similar in terms of, application as cash. If you come to the bank and say, I have millions in cash, there's always question mark where these funds are coming from, yes? So private send is exactly the same way, yeah? If we see not private send in the Dash network, we can analyze and we can say this source of funds is matching your profile, yeah? This source of funds is legitimate and it's gained over time, so everything looks fine. Private send is, you need to explain this. This is something which you basically need to go and, unless these are small amounts, unless this is business which you are secure, so this is something which you can manage, but there's a way to manage this, It's very similar to cash at some point. Yeah. But thanks for this question. It's really, it's really typical for Dash community. We just analyze information provided in the blockchain, right? We see the transactions. Yeah? We put external sources of data, and we give this information to you. We are blockchain agnostic in many ways. So we don't care about what is the blockchain, whether this is private, Dash, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Of course, Dash is the best, yes. But it's basically something which we don't mind. There's a lot of sources. Yeah. Sometimes you connect it with the companies. Sometimes you see this on the transaction connected with these companies. So you have many ways of identifying. But the geolocation part is the most difficult. And this is something which probably is futuristic a little bit. Yeah? But we can provide you with some of the data we find. And we see companies, which want to be, analyzed by us, which want to be transparent in this way. We want to be transparent in this way, yes? So I think, there's a choice always, and this is beauty because you have this choice, yes? Guys, it was a pleasure to, speak to you. I mean, sorry for the, little bit problems, but I hope, I handled. Thank you.